In this video, we'll discuss Spark regression using UnifyML SQL. Here, we use the regression model. Let's see a simple example of decision tree regression using a UnifyML query. We will run our Spark Decision Tree Regression using UnifyML SQL. Now, let's see a simple decision tree regression using Spark. This is a basic Spark Decision Tree Regression. Mention your input table name, input columns as required input columns, and target column as the column to be predicted. Max bins refers to the maximum number of bins used for discretizing continuous features. Specify your value. Maximum depth sets the maximum depth of the tree, and min info gain determines the minimum information gain required for a split at a tree node. Seed is the random seed, and training sample size splits your data into training and test data. Specify your training data value here, and the remaining portion will be used as test data. Save model and output model. I am saving the model for further predictions using Spark Decision Tree Regression on my hospital length of stay table. There are many more parameters for Spark Decision Tree Regression. You can refer to the UnifyML documentation for details. Input data types. If you want to change the data types of the columns, mention the input data parameter. Max bins, maximum depth, and min info gain define tree parameters, while seed sets the random seed. For hyperparameter tuning, there are two tuning types, cross-validation and train validation. If you want to apply hyperparameter tuning, specify parameters like max bins, max depth, min info gain, seed, parallelism, number of folds, number of partitions, and the column on which to partition. If you want to apply a PCA model, mention your input PCA model name. Data cleaning. There are 4 methods to clean your data: remove row, remove duplicates, remove outliers, and fill. Fill with values is used to replace null values or change specific data values. Data scaling. If you want to scale your data, there are 4 methods: min-max scaler, standard scaler, normalizer, and binarizer. For min-max scaler, specify the minimum and maximum scalar values. Input cache ID. If your data is already saved in the cache, you don't need to mention the input table name. Instead, specify your input cache ID. Bytes per chunk defines chunk size for processing. These are all the input arguments for decision tree regression. Specify the required arguments based on your data. Now let's run this query. This query will execute in the back end of our UnifyML server. This is the output of the Spark Decision Tree Regression, MSE value, MAE value, RMSE value, R2 value, accuracy, and saved output model. Now let's predict using Decision Tree Regression Predict. This is the Spark Decision Tree Regression Predict function. Mention your predicted input table and input model name saved earlier. There are additional parameters for Decision Tree Regression Predict. Input data types. If you want to change the data types of the columns, specify this parameter as input data. Data cleaning. The 4 data cleaning methods are remove row, remove duplicates, remove outliers, and fill. Fill with values allows replacing null values or modifying specific data values. Data scaling. The 4 data scaling methods are min-max scaler, standard scaler, normalizer, and binarizer. For min-max scaler, specify the minimum and maximum values. Input cache ID. If your data is already saved in the cache, specify the input cache ID instead of the input table. Save to DB. If you want to save your predicted data to a database, mention the Save to DB option with the output table name. If the output table already exists, use overwrite output table as a Boolean value to overwrite. Save to CSV. If you want to save the predicted data to a CSV file, specify your output CSV name and bytes per chunk. These are the input arguments for Decision Tree Regression Predict. Specify the required input arguments based on your data. Now let's run this query. This query will execute in the back end of our UnifyML server. This is the output of the Decision Tree Regression Predict function in Spark. These are the input columns, and the prediction column shows the result. In this way, we can run regression models using Spark Decision Tree Regression on any dataset as per your requirement. Thanks for watching this video.